think it was on the 21st. So we're not too far in. We've had our big Christmas event, and now we got the whole rest of winter to kind of go through. And so, I'm telling you, my birthday's in January, and if it wasn't for basketball, I'd have nothing to look forward to. So, so believe me when I say, when Christmas comes and goes quick, winter's hard to get through. But anyway, Luke 2, verse 41 here, it says, his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. When he was 12 years old, he went up to Jerusalem according to the custom of the feast. When they had finished the days, as they returned, the boy Jesus lingered behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother did not know it. But supposing him to have been in the company, they went a day's journey and sought him among their relatives and acquaintances. So when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem seeking him. Now it was after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, both listening to them and asking them questions. And all who had heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. So when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said to him, Son, why have you done this to us? Look, your father and I have sought you anxiously. And then he said to them, Why did you seek me? Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business? We'll stop reading there. May God bless the reading of his word. So as I was kind of thinking about this and going through it, they're kind of in the same situation we are. As I got to thinking about it, and I don't know all of Jewish customs and all of that and all, but I would think that the Passover celebration, the Passover feast is sort of like, as big a deal to them as Christmas and Easter is to us. And just kind of set the table. John, can you turn this down a little bit? Kind of getting an echo, sorry. I can hear an echo up here. But anyway, this event, and I got to thinking about it, the Israelites have been slaves in Egypt for 400, depending on how you look at it, it was 400 to 433 years. And they'd been under Egyptian rule, they'd been slaves, and then God brought them their freedom, that all the plagues, I won't go into all the details, but God in a very mighty big way brought them out of Egypt and made them rich. They plundered the Egyptians without ever lifting a sword, and wiped out the entire Egyptian army all in one go. So for me to stand up here and say this was probably as big as Christmas to them, I don't think is too big of a stretch. And so every year they had this feast. The feast of the Passover was, I think, a day, if I read that right, and then they went right into, I forgot what the other one was. They had the feast of the Passover in one day, and then they went into this other week-long feast, and I forgot the name. I read it several times, but so this was a big event. And also to go from Nazareth to Jerusalem, I looked it up yesterday because I was curious. It's 91 miles, and so I don't know how how far you would walk in a day, but if you figure, the best I've ever done in one day is probably like 21 miles, 18, 21 miles, somewhere like that. And I was wore out by the end of it. I wanted to rest for a week after that. But so this was a multiple day journey. So you're multiple days going into it. You've got this week-long feast. The holidays, we can kind of attest to the holidays. It's a busy time. It wears us out. The only thing that we want to do in this time that we're in right now is just rest and sit on the couch and eat leftovers and all that. But and then you've got a multiple day journey going back. So I can kind of see that when Mary and Joseph leave, they're they're probably pretty tired. I'm gonna guess they're pretty tired. If you've ever went on vacation, I'm sure the majority of us have in here went on vacation with kids, especially a beach trip. You're wore out for that 8-9 hour car ride home, and so to leave Jesus, I can kind of see how they would do that. Especially, I read also when they would travel like this, there would usually be a big group, and the Bible makes reference to them being with relatives. I would say you travel with a lot of family, probably travel with a lot of other families on this trip as well. So there was a big group. So you would think, hey, he's with Joseph over here and the men, or Mary, or Joseph would think, hey, he's just over here with Mary and all the other women. I can kind of see how they would leave him, but that kind of brings me to my first point there. A lot of times we go through the holiday season, we go through all this, we get so wrapped up in everything else that's going on that we forget about Jesus. Maybe not in the midst of it. I was all geared up for Christmas. I was like, all right, we're going to make it through these last few days of school. I'm going to give my semester test, get all that wrapped up. We got this Bulls Gap JV tournament. I get to watch 2 days of basketball, from 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and it's going to be great. And then I'm going to have a day's rest, and I'm going to gear up for Christmas. Well, somebody at the JV tournament gifted me and another boy there flu A. So I'm kind of getting over it a little bit more. I'm over the fever and all that. I'm left with the drainage, but so it's just the gift that keeps on giving. But I was all geared up for it. For the celebrations and the family, and just had the Christmas play here Sunday night, and it went great. And I was ready. I was ready to celebrate the birth of Jesus, and then everything just kind of slowed down. But not to saying that we always forget about Jesus in the middle of it, but after all is said and done, after this part right here, it's easy to forget about the reason we celebrate, just because it comes and it goes so quickly. I've often heard this scripture. I lost my train of thought there. But other preachers, they would bring this up, and they say a lot of times that we're bad to leave Jesus at church. Just either way, that's the big human tendency is to. We get through this big holiday, we do the celebration, we remember God in the midst of it, but then afterwards it's easy to go back into the tendencies that we always have. So one big thing that I'm going to try to carry into the new year is not waiting until January 1st to start those New Year's resolutions. I'm going to start right now. And lean on God and try to grow closer to Him, and that's exactly what Jesus was doing here. They left Him, and they went on a day's journey before they figured out that He was missing. Not casting judgment on them. I've not left any of my kids at church yet. At least I don't think I have. I probably if I have, I've forgotten. But I remember there for a while, Choptack had a reputation of both parents driving separate, and I've drove separate from, and so I've had plenty of opportunity. Don't get me wrong, but both parents drive separate. The other one think that the other one had, especially when you got multiple children, and one of them get lost. But the good thing about that is, sort of like in this story, there was always somebody there to recognize it, and there was always somebody there to watch the child until the parents realized that they were gone and they could get back. Thank God it didn't take 3 days. But anyway, that's what we see here. You know, when Mary and Joseph finally do get back, Jesus is in the temple. He's with trusted adults. You know, he goes to a spot where they should think to look for him. He even says that, you know, why was you looking for me? Didn't you know I'd be here about my Father's business? You know, he went to where they should know that he's there. He went there. He went and he was you know, he was listening and asking questions. You know, in the midst of the temple there with the teachers and the leaders. You know, not saying that I'm getting ahead of myself, you know, but that's, you know, the big thing about Jesus. You know, I'm saying this in a sense after a holiday, you know, in this kind of limbo time at the end of the year, but you know, Jesus, he was 12. He hadn't begun his ministry yet. I think it was. I think the age was like 30, if I remember right, when he started. So he was still 18 years away from starting his ministry. You know, and he was a human 12-year-old boy. So getting left at church, you know, wasn't a big thing for him. If he was anything like I was at 12 years old, you know, he was ADD and something caught his attention over here. I'm gonna go and over here and ask questions and look at it, and you know, mom and dad will come get me when they're ready to leave. So, you know, I imagine that he was, you know, like this. He was just like any other 12-year-old boy, but he knew what his purpose was. He knew that he was, you know, his whole purpose on earth, the whole point of him coming to earth was the fact that he was supposed to be that sacrificial lamb. He's supposed to be that perfect sacrifice for our sins. And so while he was still human, you know, he was still God as well. Even though he hadn't started his ministry, he was in church, listening and being an active participant, trying to learn all he could and all of that. You know, and this was right after a major holiday. You know, my kids, you know, even though we kind of missed out on a lot of Christmas, they were still tired. They're sleeping in and you know, staying up late and all this as well. So they're sort of in that holiday, for lack of a better term, that holiday hangover type stage. But here was Jesus. You know, I'm assuming for 3 days. You know, I don't think that he would have any other place to go. So stay in the temple for 3 days, listening and learning about God. You know, he was still hungry. He was still wanting to learn more, to grow, to gain, like it says in the last of this chapter, gain stature, and I'll just go ahead and read it. Where'd it go? Increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men. So he was still looking for that favor with God. He was still looking to grow and to get to the point that when he started his ministry, he would be ready. And I think that, you know, sort of this transition time where we're at the end of the year, we're waiting on the new year, and it's quickly approaching. You know, we should still be looking for God. We should still be trying to grow. We should still be just as hungry trying to get to that new year. You know, even if you've got a ministry or not, sort of like what I was saying earlier, you know, when God calls your number, you want to be ready to say yes, here am I, let's go. So there he was, and when his mother got back, you know, when they finally found him, you know, Mary asked him, you know, why did you do this to us? Which I thought was interesting because, you know, they left him too. They didn't double check. They didn't you know, go down through all the lists. Hey, we got all the clothes we packed. We've got, you know, all of our animals that we rode in on. We got Jesus. You know, that seemed to be the big one, especially to Mary, because she was visited by angels for the first time in 400 years prior to that. So you think that if you're entrusted with such a important person, that you would keep up with them. But Mary lost Joseph, or Mary lost Jesus rather. So we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. We shouldn't judge too quickly others. That if we get through the holiday season and then all of a sudden we lose Jesus as well. But the good news is, and I'll close with this if y'all want to go ahead and come on up, the musicians. The good news is that if you have got to this point and you've lost Jesus, you've left him, or you're just in that situation where you've not really thought about him because you're tired and the human body took over and all this, you know where to find him. He's going to be about in his Father's house, being about his Father's business. So if you're here today and you've lost Jesus, or if you've never known him, no better time than to come back and seek him and find him and come back to being about your Father's business. So.
Hymn 33.